Welcome to the official Supercross Live post-show fueled by Monster Energy. Kevin Barnett, Jim Holley here from Toronto, Canada. Round 12 now in the books. Jim, the track, when we came in here this morning, looked like a big, long track. Turned out to be really fast, and the whoops ate people up all day long.
Well, it did, and it kept changing. I mean, you saw early in the race, you know, some guys were able to blitz through them, but as the ruts started to develop and started to go away, they were just survival of the fittest. But, you know, one of the fastest guys through the whoops tonight, Kevin Wyndham, he was consistent.
Yeah, he did a great job in that Supercross class. We'll get to that in a second, but the Supercross Lights East Regional class, Justin Barcia once again back up front after his one race hiatus from the top of the box.
Yeah, I mean, 5 wins on the season now for him. He's just in the mode to try to wrap this thing up as early as possible. You know, he collects the $1,000 from Nuclear Cowboys, but old number 70 on that KTM, Ken Roxon, says, I want to lead this thing for a little bit. And Roxon was battling the, you know, a head cold all day, and you know, he made a little mistake, went a little bit wide in the corner, and Barcia went in there and just kind of bumped him a little bit, and then he took off after that, and Roxon just kind of rode around in second, just, you know, conserving him. But there was a great fight, you know, in the back, and I'm talking about Blake Wharton and Durham, and also Alex Martin. Those guys were pounding on each other. Durham loses the front end, but Wharton back up on the podium again. You know, he won last week, but a third, he's happy with it.
Certainly some fantastic racing in the back of the pack, and Jake Canada comes home with 4th place, his best finish. He just keeps getting better.
Well, he does, and you know, it's interesting because we saw in the heat race, he didn't have a good heat race or anything, his times weren't good, but you know, that main event, he steps it up and gets a 4th, and like we said, Durham was on the ground, lost the front end, but Durham ends up 5th. But what a great night here in Toronto for the fans in that Supercross Lights class.
Yeah, a great crowd here at the Rogers Center. Moving on to the Supercross class, Ryan Villapoto once again on top. He's ruling the class. It seems like Villapoto in a corner, particularly after the start-finish jump, that left-hander, he finds traction where no one else does.
Well, and I got to go back to the Monster Energy Cup last year in Las Vegas. You know, we were watching him there, and you know, he picked some different lines. But you mentioned moving on. He is definitely moving on. 7 wins on the season, another 25 points, and you know, what can you say? I mean, I talked to him on the podium earlier tonight, and he wants to try to wrap this thing up as soon as possible. He doesn't want to get to those outdoor stadiums, and I'm talking about Seattle and Salt Lake City. He wants to try to have that thing wrapped up before Seattle.
Unpredictable weather for sure in those 2 stadiums. In 2nd place, once again, Justin Brayton. If you talk about raw speed outside of Villapoto, Brayton's the one who's really shown it, and he hung on there for 5 laps within a second.
Well, we saw that raw speed in practice. He had the fastest lap after the time sessions, and you know, the other thing is he picks up $1,500 from Nuclear Cowboys. That's the first hole shot for him in the Supercross class, and goes out there and leads it. But you know, I talked to him a little bit tonight after the race, and he said, you know, I think my fitness, you know, because I was watching him pretty steadily. He kept Villapoto honest till about lap 10 or 11, and then he made a few mistakes, a few bobbles, hit a few tough blocks. He says, at that point there, I'm going to be happy with another second. You got to go back to last week. He gets a second. He gets a second this week in Toronto. He says, I can't wait to get on the bike this week and ride during the week, because you got to remember, with that injury to the leg, he's still not riding, you know, during the week. He's kind of taking time off.
Yeah, it seems like almost less is more for Justin Brayton, as it has been through this season. And 3rd place with his 2nd podium of the year, still getting it done. The old man, and the crowd goes wild, Kevin Wyndham.
Well, and he was getting it done in the whoops like we talked about earlier. He was consistent through there, and also the veteran, I mean, 34 years old, you know, he's got a lot of experience, and when he made that pass on lap, I believe it was lap 10, or no, I'm sorry, 15. He made the pass on lap 10 on Millsaps. Lap 15, he used some of the lappers to his advantage to get around Weimer there, and you know, he talked a little bit about, he had a smile. He says, I guess experience does pay for something, but another great ride, and that's another rider battling a back injury. And Kevin, you know, when talking to him, he says, you know, the only thing I wanted to do in the whoops is I just wanted to make sure I was going straight, because if the bike gets sideways, then he's got to use a lot of core. He's got to use his back to straighten the bike out, and he says he didn't want to do that and wrench his back. But I'm sure Kevin Wyndham won't be on the bike this week either, but he's looking forward to next weekend, you know, going back down to Houston, home race for him, and then after that you got a break, and then he's looking forward to New Orleans. So look for Kevin Wyndham possibly to get a few more podiums this year.
All right, we'll move from the rain here in Toronto down to Houston, where it's hot and humid. Should be a lot of fun inside the dome once again. Going to be another round of the East Lights Regional, and of course the Supercross class. Tell us at home, do you think Ken Roxon is going to get a win on this season, and how many more podiums do you think K-Dub will get? Tell us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/supercrosslive, twitter.com/supercrosslive. I'm Kevin, he's Jim. They're tearing the track down here in Toronto. We will see you next week in Houston.